What's up YouTube, Biz Matthew here. Welcome back to my channel. And to today's video, I'm going to be talking about a title company. So I recently got a question from one of you all, and your question says, hey Matthew, can you make a video going over what exactly happens at the title company and how it affects the seller? Example, title company gets purchase contract, then when are they going to reach out to the seller and what questions do they ask them? What does seller come in to sign? Is the process different for a double close versus an assignment? So in today's video, we're going to exploring all of that, what exactly a title company is, what kind of contracts you have to bring in, what kind of questions they ask you, the wholesaler, the buyer, and the seller, and what's the difference between a strict wholesale deal transaction at a title company and a double close at a title company. So if you all find any value from this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below. All right, so first thing I want to talk about is a title company. I do get a lot of questions about what exactly a title company is. People still are confused about its purpose, its role in a real estate transaction. So essentially, think of a title company as a disbursement HUD for a real estate transaction. So let's say you're selling a property, you have to go to the title company in order to disperse funds, to handle paperwork and different deeds and different things like that. So the title company makes sure, okay, this person needs to get paid, like the seller of the house, or you, the wholesaler, needs to get paid, and the buyer needs a deed. So they make sure they get the deed. If there's a mortgage on the property, they make sure the bank gets their money. They make sure if there's property taxes owed, they make sure the county gets their money. So they just disperse all the funds. They make sure people get the right paperwork that they need. If there's like a power of attorney involved, just think of them as like this third party, like this other party where you have to go in order to facilitate the transaction. All right, so that's essentially what their job is. And they make sure everything is clean on the title of the company, on the deed of the property, and also just making sure everything is ready for transferring of the deed to the buyer. All right, so what happens? So let's say you find a property, you get it under contract using the purchase and sales agreement between you, the wholesaler, and the seller, the property owner of the property. But you, the wholesaler, you're going to act as a buyer, like in the purchase and sales agreement. So there are one or two ways to do this. One, you can just automatically send that contract over to the title company so they can start escrow if you know it's a smoking hot deal and you're going to find a buyer fast. But what I like to do, if I'm still kind of unsure about my numbers, I wait until I have a buyer in order for me to send both contracts to the title company. So until I have the purchase and sales agreement signed between me and the seller and the assignment on contract between me and the buyer, that's when I send those contracts over to the title company. And then the title company will start a title search on the title of the company, making sure if there's any mortgages or liens on the property or any judgments or any issues that need to be resolved before we can actually sell this property. So that's what I do. So those documents go there. They look, if everything looks clean, now it's time to set an appointment where you can get paid, where we can actually close on this property, right? And so they will reach out to you, the wholesaler, they're gonna reach out to the seller, they're going to reach out to the buyer just to schedule a time that works best for everyone, right? And this is the perfect scenario, right? Sometimes you may work with a title company that you have to get in contact with. They're not on top of things. Sometimes you may get with a title company that's kind of slow in the process, or you may have to deal with title issues on the property and just help the title company resolve it, you know, get with the right people, find the right people in order to resolve it. But just for this video and just for example purposes, we're just going to make this a simple transaction. So they set up a time and everything, and they just need like your identification. Like if it's your first time closing with this title company, they usually ask for ID or seller and buyer and yourself, like just a copy of your driver's license, something like that. Since I do close in my LLC, they do ask for my operating agreement for my LLC, and then sometimes they ask for an EIN number, like if you're flipping a property or just making a good amount of money on the deal. But that's essentially what happens in the assignment. And so since I'm just straight talking about a wholesale assignment, not a double close. So the buyer, seller, and yourself can come to closing and everything goes according to plan. They can hand you a check. You don't even have to be there as a wholesaler, but the buyer and seller always have to be at the transaction. Or if they're doing it virtually, that's fine too. You as the wholesaler, once you sign those contracts, you're good to go. They can direct deposit you the funds after closing, or they can mail you a check, or you can pick it up later. So that's a wholesale real estate assignment, right? Very simple. Now for a double close, it works a little bit different, but essentially you're buying the house as a wholesaler, so you have to go in, right? If you're not doing virtually, you have to sign papers for closing. Like if you're just assigning the property, there's no papers you have to sign, right? Like when I'm just collecting an assignment fee at closing, there's no papers that I have to sign. But if I'm being the buyer for the property, which you're doing in a double close, because you're just quickly buying the property and then quickly reselling it the same day within an hour or so, using like transactional funding, or you're using funds from the buyer to close between you and the seller, whatever, you have to be there for both transactions. So you and the seller, you sign the paper, closing, boom. And then the buyer comes in and you act as the seller and you sell the property to your buyer and you sign again. There are more fees associated with that. You usually have to take on closing costs, but if you're just assigning the property, usually closing costs is the responsibility of the buyer, and you just have to make that known to the buyer. And so that's what happens at the title company for double closes between those two things. So those are the two ways that you can close on a property with a title company, and that's the title company role. But this question also asks about the title company once they get the sales agreement, what are they going to do, how they're going to reach out to the seller. So let's say you don't have a buyer in place yet, but you still want to send over the purchase contract to the title company so they can start escrow. They can start doing a title search, making sure there's no liens or weird things in the property. You can do that, right? They may charge you a fee though. Some title companies, if you've been doing business with them for a long time, they'll probably waive that fee. Just do a simple quick search for you to see if they find anything. So let's say you do that. If there's a problem with the title, they'll let you know. But if not, they're ready to close. They're waiting for you to find a buyer so you can assign the property. So that's why I don't like wasting like the title company's time and just send off a purchase and sales agreement without a buyer, because they can be done with a title search and everything, and they're just waiting for you. And now you have to set up a time and everything. If you don't want them to reach out to the seller, you just have to let them know that, hey, I'm still going to assign this property. I'm still looking for a buyer. Please don't reach out to the seller until I have a buyer in place. And they usually respect that, and they won't reach out to them until you have a buyer for the property. All right, you all, if you all find any value in this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're interested in an online course teaching you the basics, step-by-step how to wholesale real estate, check the link down below. If you're interested in PropStream, where I find my leads to close real estate wholesale deals, check the link down below, and I'll talk to you all later. Peace.